Presented by McDonald's of Glasgow, it's time for the Brown Sports Bag from the heart of the Barrens, a weekly local sports machine. Alongside John Butler, here's your host, James Brown.
Today, I am not alongside John Butler at the moment. He had an appointment today. Hopefully, he'll be able to get over here. I'm not sure exactly what the status is on that. So you're going to hear me bloviate, as they like to say, for a little while on some things. And I guess I'm going to just start off with high school football. We had what I consider to be a big game on Friday night up in Brandenburg for Barren County versus Meade County. The Trojans were in a position to try to win the game and hopefully get to host a home playoff game for the first time, I think, since about the mid to late 90s. I was trying to remember that earlier. But anyway, somewhere in that window of time was the last time they probably had a home playoff game. They didn't win the game, and as it turned out, in a way, it didn't matter. They didn't win the game in terms of hosting the home playoff game because Central Hardin beat North Hardin. The way it needed to work out was Barren needed to win that game against Meade County, and they really needed North Hardin to beat Central Hardin so that then Barren would be a clean second-place team at 2-1. If they had won the game and then had the same result with Central Hardin beating North Hardin, I think the tiebreaker would have gone to the RPI, and it looked like Central Hardin had the number one RPI. So the way it would have worked out was Central Hardin would have been first, North Hardin second, Barren third, and then Meade would have been fourth. And Barren would have opened the first round of the playoffs at North Hardin. But the way things shake out, Barren enters as the fourth seed out of their district. They'll play Central Hardin on the road in 2 weeks, a little less than 2 weeks. It's 2 weeks from this past Friday, so they'll be headed to Central Hardin. I guess the upside, if you want to look at it this way, is Barren has beaten Central Hardin the last 2 times they've played them. Played real well against them, played good defense against Central Hardin. They just have had their number in terms of winning those games. And so for the players and for the coaching staff and the fans, they can look at it and say, yeah, we didn't get the home playoff game like we wanted to, but we are playing a first-round game against a team that we know we can beat. And I think that's a positive if you want to look at it that way. Actually, I guess that is a positive, no matter how you want to look at it. And I don't know, the way I kind of look at this district this year is North Hardin obviously has some talent that they can make big plays with. A lot of times that's out of their special teams or defensive plays, that kind of thing, and they score quickly. Barren has struggled against them in that regard in terms of not giving up the big play to them. But they've played well against North Hardin when they've played them. It's just they've not been able to manufacture a win against them. Kind of the same thing with Meade County. I would say, for whatever reason, Barren just struggles to play Meade County. I believe they had the better team when I was watching them play Friday night. It's just that the Trojans just made too many mistakes. They had an excellent opportunity early in the game because Meade County came out. Barren got a good stop right off. Meade shanked that opening punt. Barren had good field position to start with, but they fumbled the ball on the first play. I think they picked up a penalty on the second play, and they ended up ending that drive with a punt. And I felt like if they could have generated any score out of that particular possession, even if it was a Aiden Miller field goal or something of that nature, then the whole complexity of the game is going to be different at that point, because what's going to happen is Meade has only one win this season. It was against Elizabethtown, 16-3, but they've obviously struggled to win games. I'd say they and Barren have been in a very similar situation in those struggles. And so, if Meade gets in that early hole, and Barren was playing with confidence right out of the gate, especially on the defensive side of the ball. If they can get Meade in that early hole, then Meade is a team that's looking up and saying, here we go again. But as it turned out, Barren wasn't able to get any points out of that. Meade scored, I think, on the next possession, and then they scored again. They got up 14-0. And this has been Barren's struggle the whole season, is getting in these holes. I think the only team they've not been behind to start off with was Monroe County. So even a couple of games they've won, they've been down early. So it's they found themselves in a similar position that they've been in game and game out this season in the first half. And again, they did, what they've done in many of these games is they came back. They got a chance to they scored, made it 14-7, got another touchdown. And it was kind of a strange little sequence here because after the second touchdown, Meade, they had a guy who was lined up offsides on the extra point. Barren didn't take that penalty. They decided to they were going to just kick the extra point. Meade is offsides again on the next time they're going to kick, and Barren does take the penalty, but they kick the extra point and it gets blocked, and so they're down 14-13. And it's like there are so many plays in a football game that determine the outcome, but kind of what happens is sometimes you have these inflection points where you can see the body language of players on the teams. And if, when that momentum kicks in and something goes right, you can see that, the energy level picks up and that kind of stuff. And I don't think Barren, they weren't out of the game despite that. I mean, I thought they were actually in control of the game, even though they were down a point. But then Meade gets the ball back and they score on their next possession, another long pass play. And then what happens is Barren didn't field the kick on the ensuing kickoff, and Meade recovered the ball at the 1 yard line. It's the longest onside kick recovery I've ever seen, to be honest. And that was just one of those mental mistake moments and then now Barron's in a hole. They scored after that one. And so now Barron's in a hole that's going to be hard to come back from. And it was. I mean, the final ended up being 30-20. That was the final score. So, it's just like these moments for Barren County's players and maybe the coaching staff and that kind of thing where if one thing had gone just a different direction, I believe the whole complexion of the game is just going to be different. And Barren, they despite how the playoff seeding would have worked out, it would have been good just to get the win. It's just good to win those games, especially against teams that you just have not historically played well against or played well enough against. And Meade County's been one of those schools for whatever reason. I was looking back. I don't know how many times they've played each other, but through the history that's available on the KHSAA website, I believe Barron's never actually beaten Meade County. So, and it's one of those schools that you would look at and say, well, surely that's a good one for Barren to compete against. And I think it is. I mean, I think they're similar in a lot of ways, but it just hasn't panned out that way for them. So, they get to go on the road. Before they get there this Friday, they're playing Allen County Scottsville down at Allen County. The Patriots are in pretty good shape. They're a decent team this year. It's a winnable game for the Trojans. Hopefully, with the pressure of the district playoff situation off and that kind of stuff, the guys can relax and just come out and play. The game is nothing but bragging rights between some people who live down by the lake, I guess, between Allen County folks and Barren County folks who live on each side of the lake down there. There's probably some family rivalries that might exist between these two teams. There are probably some people who are related. And so, there's some bragging rights there, maybe at the next barbecue. But anyway, it's a winnable game, and it would be good for the Trojans to get on a winning path as they close out the regular season. It won't be easy. I mean, Allen County's always a hard-nosed team. Brad Hood coaches his guys up real well. But I've been impressed with the job Tommy Muse has done this year, especially on the defensive side of the ball. He's been able to really get some things done. Oh, here we go. John Butler has he's made it. Hopefully things have gone well for him today. John, how's it going for you today?
I'm here.
Good. I just kind of went through the Barren County game. I've not gotten to the Glasgow and Caverna on our list yet.
I was listening.
Yeah, and my general assessment from that, do you feel my assessment was generally on point?
You were totally wrong.
Okay,
no,
I appreciate that.
No, I'm kidding. No, I agree. It was a winnable game.
Yeah.
A game that I did not think Barren overall played well.
Yeah.
But we've never have beaten Meade County.
Yeah, that's what I was.
I mean, we're 0-4 Meade County, whatever. But it was a game. Meade was 1-7. Technically 1-7. They were 1-5. They had 2 COVID cancellations. But a team that doesn't score a lot of points, and Barren has had the same problem for most of the games. They got behind 14-0 again.
Yeah,
and you just put yourself in a bad position and gave up 2 long touchdown passes in which we let people get behind us, and then of course we made the mistake on with 4 minutes to go on the kickoff, which you've got to catch it.
Yeah,
got to make sure it goes. If it doesn't go in the end zone, you got to get on it, and that was the game. And just did not play good enough. I did think Will Childress played well. I thought he was. I thought that was probably his best game. I thought he played well.
Threw some good balls in that game.
Yeah, Tyler Wilson, the receiver, had a really good game.
Yes,
caught
he
8
did.
or 9 balls, and but overall, just I know Tommy was disappointed. Mm-hmm. And football, you only play so many.
Right.
And people go, well, probably didn't matter all that much. You're going to play, blah blah blah. But you only play 10. And you eventually you want to get to a point where you're having winning records, and that's important to Barren.
I think that one of the things about that particular game that maybe the players were just tight in a way because they don't face these kinds of expectations in terms of playing to get a home playoff game and how important it is to all of them. And I kind of wonder if they won't play a heck of a lot better against Allen County this coming Friday because they can just go play football. There's no expectations on the circumstance.
I don't know. I don't know what was the mindset. I don't know. Give Meade credit. They're a proud school. Yeah, traditionally,
impressive facility too.
Beautiful facility.
Yeah.
I mean, if you've never been there, it reminds me of Russellville, except it's a more modern Russellville.
Yeah.
And they've added turf, which I'm not a big turf fan, but they've added that. But it's a big facility. Of course, Meade County was in the semifinals of the state in 6A not long ago.
They were in the finals.
That's exactly right. Yeah. So and same coaching staff and so forth. So they expect, but it's not a great Meade County team. In fact, they're small for Meade County. I mean, they did not have very many players even dressed.
Yeah.
So it was a game that got away from us, and I thought we missed Jackson Arms. I thought that was a key. He has played really well for us defensively, and we put very little pressure on their quarterback overall.
True.
Cody Rito had some pressures, but other than that,
the only pressures really came from blitzes.
That's correct. And so, but just somehow we got to get off to better starts.
Yeah.
And can't make the mistakes. Mostly mental mistakes, because we really only had 1 turnover. Mm-hmm. If you call the kickoff a turnover, that would be 2.
Yeah. Like I said, I guess the upside is they get to play Central Hardin in the first round. It's a team they know they can beat. They've beaten them the last 2 times they've played them. So that's got to be something that at least confidence-wise, and hopefully by the time you get there, you mentioned missing Jackson Arms. I think Ryan Shirley injured his ankle before the game even started.
He did. I saw him today. He was limping pretty. I didn't even notice it, but he was really limping today. So
so hopefully those guys they're not so important against Allen County because the game doesn't matter for anything other than hopefully pride to win the game. But hopefully they're all healthy and ready to go by the time they play Central Hardin, and that'll be a huge difference, I think.
The district that's not the strongest district I've ever seen.
Well, and look,
so it's very winnable.
I don't know that Barren has the best individual talent in the district, but I think they have a good team, comparatively speaking.
They do.
The
it's pretty even.
Yeah, I agree. Meanwhile, the Glasgow Scotties, they picked up a win against Casey County, beat them 28-14, I think it was, and it was. I think people would have thought the game to be more lopsided than that.
I did, and it reminded me of Adair County.
It did.
Yeah,
yes.
Where most people believe that Glasgow would probably blow out Adair and didn't, and. I think Casey was like 1-6, so it was really I could not really conceive a way that Glasgow would lose.
No,
but it was closer. But you can't play at a high level every week, and,
right.
and they this was coming after the Taylor County game.
Yeah,
so it was
it's a strange sandwich game because it's Taylor and then they have Franklin Simpson coming up, which is kind of a traditional.
And
rival.
then the district.
Yeah,
so we neither one saw the game.
No,
so. I don't know exactly how it transpired, how it happened. Seemed like it seemed like the quarterback stats are about the same every week.
Yeah,
he was 6 out of 7 for a touchdown, and Glasgow seems to be throwing about 7 or 8 times a game.
Yeah.
But when they throw it, they tend to be quite effective with it.
Yeah,
and they miss Hunter Scott too, right?
I believe we did see some impact of missing Hunter Scott in that game because.
Didn't have quite as many explosive plays.
Yeah, I think that's where it was. And so they did get a couple of big plays. I think in the passing game, they got a couple of big runs. They had to utilize some of their younger guys in the running game. I think the upside of that is then they get Franklin Simpson this week, then they have the first-round playoff game. These younger guys that they're going to need to step up by the time they see Taylor County again will have 4 games under their belt with that game pressure on them. And I mean, those guys are talented. They're just young at the moment.
Yeah.
So I think that'll be a benefit for them. Myers played quarterback some. I think he threw 3 passes. I think Easton Jesse took most of the snaps at quarterback in the game still. So, he's coming back around to 100%. I do think this Franklin Simpson game may have gotten a lot more interesting than I would have expected a couple of weeks ago.
Well, it's typical Franklin. This is the way they've been the last 3 or 4 years. They'll start off 1-4, 0-5, and then they get well during their district.
Yeah.
I mean, they're still, against. They did lose to Allen, but they good win last week against Warren East.
Yeah, they beat them 41-14.
So they tend to turn it around in that middle of the year and get better. They have a 4-year start at the quarterback, and Franklin tends to be physical. So it's a game that I think Glasgow will win.
Yeah,
I really do. I think they probably win by a touchdown, maybe 2. But it's a challenging game for them. It's not a rollover.
Yeah, and I think it's a good test game for them going into the playoffs, because they'll get Hart County in the first round of the playoffs. And Hart County will try to be physical with Glasgow in that first round, but I don't think they can really compete in that way. I mean, when they played in the regular season, the final was 57-14, I think it was. So I don't think, but when you're looking down and you probably got that Taylor County game coming up in that second round, every test that you get probably is helpful if you get out of it injury-free.
Right. That's the only danger playing a bigger, more physical school the last game.
Yeah. Now, the way this also shapes up is Glasgow's still in first place in that RPI. There are 3 teams basically that have a chance.
Will this be a bonus for them?
It will be.
Because I'm not against the RPI. I just don't like how it's utilized.
Yeah.
But for Glasgow's perspective, RPIs are really, really beneficial to if you're 4A and below, it's a big boost because you get bonus points for beating schools that are in higher classification. Franklin is a 4A school. Glasgow is a 3A school.
Yep.
So if Glasgow knocks off Franklin, they will get bonus points to the RPI.
Well, the downside is Cal, Christian Academy of Louisville, which is second in the RPI, is playing Eastern. That's a team. That's a 5A school. 6A that they are going to beat. Bardstown is playing East Jessamine, which is a 5A school that they're going to probably beat by 50 by the looks of things.
Right.
And it'll be curious to see how that affects the 3 of them in terms of their RPI because they're all 3 playing up. But I think Glasgow's playing probably the toughest opponent. Maybe Eastern is. I'm not sure, but I would say just generally speaking, Franklin's the toughest of those 3 opponents. Those 3 schools are playing.
Okay.
So we'll see how that shapes up. Then Caverna picked up their 5th win on Friday night. They beat Jackson County 36-14.
That's more wins than you can add their last 3 years together almost.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I don't know exactly how long, but I'm thinking the last time they picked up 5 or more wins in a season was probably about 2008 or so.
Yeah. They've gone a couple of years lately with goose eggs.
Yes, they have. They had one of the longer losing streaks in the state for a while there. And they've gone the path of we're not going to play a district and we're going to schedule teams. They've gone the path of what Logan County did and Barren did for a couple of years, Clinton. And some others, Clinton. They do have some talent coming up. Their middle school program is solid at the moment. And so they're looking at the fact that they've got a couple of years until this talent gets there. Once
you go independent, you got to stay independent for a couple of years.
Yeah.
The cycle, I believe. Is it 2 or 4?
Well, I believe it's 2 years because of the contract situations. Because now you've made the 1-on-1 contract, so you're going to have to do it at least whatever that couple of years is, and you don't have those district contracts in there, as I understand it. I think that's gone back this year. Last year they made some changes because of the COVID. The KHSA did, but I think these contracts are back in the 1-on-1 situations. Okay. So the home and home situations, that's usually how it works out. So that means they would play a independent schedule again next year. But, of course, after next year, we're going to have the reclassification of football anyway in terms of who's moving up and down and that kind of jazz. So they may wind up getting back into a district schedule. I mean, their district right now is kind of goofy anyway. It's Russellville, Clinton County, and Fulton County. Fulton City dropped football the last 2 years, so they've not been in a district. There's not that many 1A schools in Western Kentucky in the way it works out. So, I guess now they've hit the road for some of these games. They've had played some long distance games.
Well, that goes back to the problem that we've at least I've spoken out. I'm not really sure what you feel like. There's too many classifications.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah, I mean, that's just bottom line, and you shouldn't be searching that far for an opponent.
Yeah.
3 or 4 classes would be ideal in this state rather than
I would go with
6.
4. I mean, I think 6 is way too many because at the top end and bottom end, where you have about 32 schools and those two in 6A and 1A, there's no way to build these districts in a economically feasible way.
Right.
And despite all the things the KHSA says about how it tries to do that.
And there's not a ton, really with single A and 2A, there's not a ton difference.
No.
Where the difference is maybe the bottom of the single A enrollment. I mean, if you only got 200 in your school and your top 6A school has 600, but there's very few schools that small.
Yeah, that's right. I think the smallest school is actually Fulton City in terms of had been playing football.
And does it really matter what class they're in?
No.
I mean, really, to be honest with you.
No. And so yeah, I think so. They're trying to go that route to see.
And there's not a big difference between 5A and 6A.
There's not. I mean, Meade County has. I looked it up. It has 1,553 students. I think is what the number was from last year, and I think it is like the 6th largest school in the state, something like that.
Yeah. Well,
which is just crazy. There's only like 20,000 people in it county.
Well, Barron's proven. We're a 5A school playing 6A. And
yeah.
I mean, it's probably an easier district what we're in than the Greenwood South Warren district.
Yeah, it's a 5A playing 6A, and it's off of being a 6A by about 200 students, 150 students or whatever. So yeah, you're right. There's not that much difference in a lot of ways, and that's why there's just too many. Plus, the whole playoff system where everybody basically gets in is just a farce in football. But we beat that dead horse to death.
Yep.
I think over and over on here.
Yep.
But anyway, good
congratulations
win.
to Caverna.
Yeah, good win for them. They're trying to build that program up. They've got some electrifying players. I think I've talked about them before. Cameron Buchanan and Caleb Edwards especially. Just hard-nosed football players. I enjoy watching them play. So, they've got those wins. We'll see how this goes going forward. We'll see when they get back in the district. And like I said, their middle school program has got some outstanding players in it. They just got to keep the numbers up, which is kind of a struggle sometimes at Caverna. So congratulations to them. All right, it's the Brown Sports Bag brought to you by McDonald's of Glasgow. We'll be right back.
Presented by McDonald's of Glasgow, it's back to the studio with James and John, the Brown Sports Bag.
Well, John, the college sports scene I don't know, it just gets crazier and crazier every week. It seems like pretty much, I think by the time, right after we got off the air here last week, we found out that 6 schools were leaving Conference USA and going to the AAC.
Yeah, and Western's not one of them.
And Western and Middle Tennessee are not in that group of 6. And
what's disappointing about that from the Western perspective is that Western, I don't know what else they could do. They have excelled in Conference USA.
Yeah.
Got the best volleyball program in the conference by far. Women's basketball has won more championships.
Mm-hmm.
The men's basketball is obviously they're in the finals every year.
Yeah.
Football has been as good as any other one. I don't know what else. It's just like if I'm the American, clearly they don't see Bowling Green as a revenue enough market because the schools that are being taken over Western. To me, I mean,
they're inferior on the athletic front.
It's not even close.
Yeah,
I mean, some of those Texas schools, not even close. I could understand Rice.
Yeah,
but some of these other schools. I mean,
North Texas and Denton,
they don't bring anything other than, I guess, a better market.
And that is a growing market there north of Dallas. I mean, that metropolitan area north of Dallas is like one of the hottest. But do
people down there watch North Texas play?
Therein lies the rub, right? So no, they don't. And nobody cares in Charlotte about Charlotte.
I agree.
And I don't think it has anything to do with the quality of programs or the market per se in terms of whether or not fans are interested in it. It's TV. It's got to be TV dollars.
But why is TV interested in North Texas University?
I don't know, because people are suckers, and I guess they believe that they can advertise into those markets. And people are paying attention. That's only there in figures.
Is there a lot of people watching Charlotte play football?
Nobody's watching Charlotte play anything.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, I don't understand it. And again, my suggestion: there will come a time. I'm predicting there will come a time where there's just going to be football conferences.
Yeah.
I mean, I know I'm not that smart that I'm the only person who can see this. And let everybody else go back to playing your geographically responsible way.
Yeah.
But, Western they're in trouble in terms of where to go. Now, maybe they know something. The athletic director and the president of Western put out statements this weekend saying that we are in negotiations and we don't need to be commenting during negotiations. Now,
that's fair enough, but those statements sound a little bit being put out in a defensive sort of way to me. They just ring in my ear that way.
Could be. Maybe they're just taking a lot of criticism.
Well, I'm sure they are.
And they just, are trying to say, listen, we're on it and we're trying.
Yeah, somebody told them, look, you got to say something.
Now, being in negotiations, does that mean they're negotiating with Conference USA to try to get other members to stay or to come in, or are they negotiating with another conference?
Well, and that
because Conference USA is been obliterated. It
is. Here's the thing. Conference USA, what I was reading earlier today, and this, I think, for story that was from either Sunday or Saturday.
Well, tell the six that's left.
Off the top of my, let me look down here so I can find
the six that left for.
Yeah, Charlotte, FAU, North Texas, Rice, UAB, and UTSA.
Are going to the American.
Now,
and rumor is that Marshall and Southern Miss are leaving.
Well, Southern Miss has already made a statement that they've agreed to join the Sun Belt. So Southern Miss is gone. One of the charter members of the program, only they and UAB were left as charter members of Conference USA.
So they're leaving.
They're going to the Sun Belt, which is just, there's irony in that to me, but we'll get to that in a minute. And then Marshall and ODU are expected to be invited and accept either, they could be happening right now, like last week while we're on the air. It could be happening right now.
So that leaves what? Western?
That leaves 5 schools,
Western,
right?
Middle?
Yep.
Florida International?
Yep. Louisiana Tech and UTEP. Yeah. I mean, and look, apparently nobody wants UTEP, which is why they're in Conference USA to start with. But it looks like, from what I was reading, Conference USA is angling to expand its western front. Now, that's all well and good for UTEP and whomever, New Mexico State, if they join, and some of these FCS schools that are looking to move up to the FBS. But that does nothing for WKU and Middle Tennessee. And I keep saying Middle Tennessee with them because they've been rivals for years.
And they're connected.
They're connected. They've been together in so many different ways through the years.
Yeah. And the OVC is dissolving too.
Yes.
So it's not like, hey, Murray, join us. Of course, Murray has not left. That's I don't know if that's an option or not, but
OVC is not Division I football. It's right. FCS football, right? Correct. So that's the catch.
I have a wish for Western,
yes.
and I don't know anything. Be perfect, I have no clue. I know I do Western women's basketball some, but I don't have a clue. I think the MAC would be a tremendous ad for
That's
Western.
Exactly what came to mind as I was reading.
Now they would be the southernmost conference school. The MAC's I think it's a heck of a conference.
Yeah.
You're talking about Central Michigan and Western Michigan and Toledo and Akron, Bowling Green. I think it's a good football conference. It's a good obviously it's a real good basketball conference. And Western would be the southernmost part. I think it would be a great find if they want it. But nobody has left. You notice during all these realignments in the last so many years, nobody leaves the MAC.
Yeah, no.
That
and they seem to be kind of like we kind of like where we are.
That's correct. So I don't even know if it's an option.
Yeah.
I also like the Missouri Valley, but I don't even know if they play football in the Missouri Valley.
They also do not have FBS football. And see, they're like 4 or 5 conferences that have Division I basketball and Division I in some other sports. They don't have Division I football. And
could Western survive as an independent football?
That would be
it's
hard.
Tough, isn't it? It's tough because you want the TV market.
Yeah, that's the thing. The reason Notre Dame can do it is because they basically have their own network.
Yeah.
Some schools can get away with it. Army and Navy have gotten away with it.
And all this stuff, I was going to use a different word, was started with Oklahoma in Texas.
Yeah.
And it's just two schools just don't leave and everything. Okay, it's just two. There's
always going to be a domino effect.
It's a domino effect that affects everybody.
Because, again, back to, like, the reason you would think maybe Conference USA would look around and say, okay, forget it, we're just done. But they have these CV contracts that run through the end of next year, 22-23, I think it is. They have different other financial obligations that extend beyond that, and they have to meet those obligations. The only way to meet those obligations is to keep the money coming in.
So you got to have schools.
Yeah.
Well, it's amazing what two schools that leave the Big 12 to go to SEC, and then the Big 12 reacts by stealing 4 schools from the American, Cincinnati, Memphis. Who else they take? They got BYU to come in and somebody else.
Yeah.
And then the American is weakened, and then they go after Conference USA. And Conference USA is kind of like, okay. And then the Sun Belt has reacted.
Well, let's get back to the irony of the fact that Southern Miss is leaving Conference USA to go to the Sun Belt. It was not too long ago people were leaving the Sun Belt to come to Conference USA.
Right.
Conference USA was considered like the next step. Now it is suddenly just out in the wind.
Yep.
And I think it kind of goes back to something we talked about at least last year when we were talking about how the basketball schedules worked and even the football, is that you've got all these schools in Texas and Conference USA, and that's not where it originated from.
And the other thing is the problem with these expansive conferences like Conference USA and even the American, there's no real common bond unity that would like keep people together. Because really, what does Western have that's even connected to those Texas schools?
Yeah, nothing.
To even Old Dominion, to schools. I mean, there's no loyalty or connection really. So people will just leave when they get the better offer. Yeah, they just go.
Well, and so when you look at the Sun Belt, I mean, it's suddenly the Sun Belt has gone from a conference that was like just a pass through to like an actual player,
right?
Just like that. And if the MAC is not accepting or inviting, then it looks like WKU and MTSU really need to try to get in the Sun Belt at that point in time, because now geographically that's going to be the best situation for them. Otherwise, they're just going to be 2 schools and everybody else is going to be in the West. I mean, they just imagine the cost over time.
And here's why it matters. I mean, the big scheme, I'm sure it doesn't matter, but it matters in terms of if you want to have a top 20 volleyball program, which they do, then being in a conference that's competitive is going to be important to a Travis Hudson.
Yes.
Being in a competitive conference for the men's and women's basketball should be important to them. And for the football program, in which has been heavily invested, millions has been spent on this football program in terms of hiring the Jeff Broms and the Bobby Petrinos, and now the Travis and the Helton, and expanding the stadium.
Yeah.
They didn't do that for the football program to fall apart because they can't stay in a conference.
Right.
I mean,
they obviously had ambitions to be a program that moved up to the next leg.
That's correct. So to keep some of these coaches that we have that are really good, and to have these then you have to. The kids that you're recruiting want to come in and play in a competitive conference and environment.
Yeah, you've got to be able to say to them that
sell it to them.
Yeah, that it's we offer things. Part of those things is these weight rooms and all that, but the other thing is you're playing against the best that you can play against.
That's correct.
And you're right. That's probably been a fantastic recruiting tool in a lot of these sports outside of football. Probably
right. Conference USA is It's been good, not great.
Yeah.
Because the travel is terrible. But what's it going to be compared to whatever? What's next?
Yeah.
I think the MAC would be a fantastic find.
I think it is the perfect fit for WKU if that can be made to happen. That's what I think. Yeah. I don't think the future. There's no future in Conference USA for them because of the way it's going to go.
The American would have been great too, but they got they didn't get asked.
Well, I mean, just think about this real quick. 2 things real quick. One is UAB, which not too long ago killed its program, is now in the AAC and is considered a coveted program in football, and because it's not really they don't really have another sport they're great in.
I just don't get coveting these Texas schools and old. I know they got more people, but people People down there don't watch the program. They just don't. I don't understand how that's a media market desire.
You would think at some point in time the advertising agencies would wake up and say, but can you show me the numbers where they actually watch, and not just say, don't tell me how many millions people live there.
I agree.
And it does not seem that's the case at the moment.
And are they competitive? No.
Yeah.
I mean, do they have a fan base that travel? No.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't. It doesn't make sense to me. I mean, I don't get it.
It's kind of like selling. What is it?
Now, Boise State, that's not a big market, but they have big crowds and they follow.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, Western, I would like to think, is capable of getting. They're much more capable of getting that level.
Yeah.
And they're better at other sports, but I'm just about football, than North Texas.
Oh yeah. I mean, yeah, North Texas is the downside for North Texas is you've got all these Texas schools that are also recruiting all the same players you would like to recruit. Plus, you're right near the Oklahoma border.
Right.
I mean, so you're losing out there too. I mean, they've got to have. It's got to be a hard time to recruit at North Texas on a consistent basis. One other thing that you mentioned early on in this conversation was the winning of the programs for WKU. I think across Conference USA in their time,
they're the winningest program.
Yeah, all programs together, they have the winningest athletic program.
And it doesn't seem like that is a qualification or a desire for some of these other conferences.
Yeah, which is just mind-boggling.
It is mind-boggling. I mean, a winning program? No, we'll take a losing program. And that's what they're doing. They're taking losing programs, some not all, over a winning program and winning school.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
It's very disappointing.
It is.
All right, and real quick, even though I made that comment about Caboni and Stewart's statement sounding somewhat defensive to me, I'm not laying this on them as I say that.
Right.
This is the landscape they're having to deal with. They're not the one they created. And I'm with you that some of the programs that these conferences accept don't really make any rational sense. And I'm sure for Caboni and Stewart, they look at that and say the same thing. That does not actually make sense. So, I could see why they might be a little frustrated with the criticism. I get that.
Yep.
All right, it's Brown Sports Bag brought to you by McDonald's Glasgow. We'll be right back.
Presented by McDonald's of Glasgow, it's back to the studio with James and John, the Brown Sports Bag.
Well, John, your Louisville Cardinals, I say your Louisville Cardinals picked up a win against Boston College on Saturday. They did. They were in the position they just really needed to win a game.
They're 4-3.
Yeah.
Easily could be 6-1.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was just kind of a morale booster, thank goodness. And also, it wasn't any miracle plays at the end or just big mistakes or whatever. They just won the game. And that's got to count for something, I guess.
Quarterback played fantastic.
Yeah.
Cunningham's a good player.
He is.
But Louisville's they're in a tricky spot where I legitimately think they're pretty decent. Mm-hmm. Their defense is getting slightly better. Boston College had a winning record.
Yeah.
And but they've given away games, and they got a problem right now with the fan base. They only had 38,000 people there allegedly, in a stadium that seats over 60.
Yeah,
and they've got to get that back. They got to get that fan excitement back. Mm-hmm. And the team is not that bad, but they've been disappointing. When you lose leads like they've lost, and still the Satterfield, the coach, has got to get some type of better connection going. But I don't think they have a bad football team.
No, I do kind of wonder. We've seen this before in certain circumstances where a head coach may be doing a better job than it looks like, but they're in trouble anyway just because of things have just gone the wrong direction and there's no getting it back.
Yeah.
And I don't know if Satterfield's there yet or not. I guess we shall see, depending on how the rest of the season goes, I'd imagine.
Well, they got games to rekindle interest.
Yeah, they do, don't they?
UK.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's nothing that gets you back on the side of the fan base from a Louisville perspective of beating UK.
I would say to some degree that worked for Kentucky a few years ago when they stunned the Cardinals.
Lamar Jackson.
Yeah, I mean, they derailed that season for him.
That was kind of a turning point, I think.
Yes, I agree with you.
Good point. And still have Clemson, and Clemson is not even ranked right now, but still a win over Clemson would be a big win.
Yeah. Yeah, so they got to get these games under their belt, and I imagine Satterfield needs this to happen as well for himself. Meanwhile, WKU picked up another win. They beat Florida International 34-19. Their defense had 7 sacks in the game.
Yeah.
So that may be the best game their defense has played in terms of like just making plays.
Another powerhouse program, Florida International.
Yeah.
That does not add much at all.
No, you're right.
But they're in Miami. Okay. Nobody goes.
Yeah, Florida Atlantic can't get into another conference, but Florida International can.
Yeah, Florida Atlantic is they're joining the Big 12, right?
Is that what they're doing? Yes, that's correct.
Yeah, I mean,
they are.
That's one of the largest colleges in the country.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah. But anyway, a good win for Western. You know, I think they've kind of settled in off those tough games with Michigan State and all that, and finally have gotten back-to-back wins, and before you know it, they'll have a winning record. And before you know it, you know, Western will probably be 7-4.
Yeah, I agree. I don't.
Yeah, fantastic offense.
Mm-hmm.
Defense is playing. I don't know if the defense is playing better or the competition is just play. I mean, let's be fair. You know, I mean,
I agree. I agree in that they still gave up probably more points than they should have. But I would say that getting the sacks and just getting the pressures, maybe it is because Florida International is not very good.
Well, it is. I mean, sometimes it's you got to watch coach speak or things like that. And are we playing better? Or are we just playing easier competition?
Yeah, that's a good point. They do have homecoming this week, by the way. They play Charlotte this Saturday at 3 p.m. Another game they should win.
Is Charlotte, I'm trying to keep in my mind, is Charlotte still with us or are they gone?
They're with us for a year or two.
And then they're gone?
Yes, they're gone.
So they're another one that's jumped to the Sun Belt?
Yeah, they're going to the AAC.
Oh, AAC. That's a big jump.
Yeah, they've gone from FCS to the AAC in less than a
Charlotte
decade.
is looked at a higher level than Western. That's amazing.
Nonsense is what it is.
It really is.
I mean, because they're not really good at anything, like comparatively speaking.
That would be my pregame speech in whatever sport we played against. Some of these teams that were asked to go to the American and by Western, it'd be like being turned down by, at a prom date. Or
yeah,
whatever.
That's right. They put it up over the thing. Their fodder. It says rejected by.
Yes.
And the list of all these schools, and they rejected us. Go out there and smack them in the mouth.
Charlotte.
Yeah, I got you.
Used to be North Carolina Charlotte.
Yes, that's right.
UNC Charlotte at one time.
Yes, and then they just decided they were just Charlotte.
They're just Charlotte.
Banking capital of America, apparently. And then Kentucky is back in action this coming Saturday. They're at Mississippi State at 6 p.m.
Are you going?
No, I'm not going to Starkville.
But you are a Mississippi State fan.
No, not really.
You're a Southern Miss fan.
Yeah, I went to Southern Miss. My wife's family went to Mississippi State.
So she's for Mississippi State.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think we still probably get the cheese every year.
Well, Mississippi State will be, should be a good game. I mean, Kentucky is ranked 12th.
Mm-hmm.
Only one loss to Georgia. But Mississippi State, give this guy credit. Mike Leach he's goofy. Mm-hmm. But he wins.
Yeah.
And people go, I don't know if he can win the SEC. Well, he's beaten Texas A&M and blew out
Tennessee, was it?
I think he beat LSU, didn't he?
Yeah, it's LSU. Blew out LSU.
So,
no. Ole Miss blew out LSU. They beat Tennessee.
So Mississippi State, he finds a way to win games. Plays a different system. He won't even try to run it against Kentucky.
No,
he didn't like to run it anyway.
No.
But he'll throw it 60 times. And going to Mississippi State, it is at Mississippi State.
Yeah, it's a
tough place to play.
Yeah, so it'll be a good test for Kentucky to see what they've done over these 2 weeks to bounce back.
Mississippi State started off as a 2-point favorite, and now it's switched to a 1-point Kentucky favorite. That's a lot of money that can switch it that way.
Yeah.
So people are on the Kentucky bandwagon. A lot of big blue people probably jumped on that.
Yeah. They saw that line. They were like, we need to get this flipped around.
That's correct.
And then, as we close in on this end of this segment, a couple of NFL games I wanted to talk about real quick. One was that Titans win over the Chiefs. I mean, the Titans defense has struggled this season. It's been their negative part. But on Sunday against the Chiefs, they just mauled Patrick Mahomes.
Well, I don't know if another NFL team has had back-to-back weeks as good as Tennessee because on Monday night, and that's a short rest, they knocked off Buffalo.
Yep.
And coming back within 6 days to maul Kansas City, That's big time. And they've their defense, as you're right, just got after, just totally got after Pat Mahomes, knocked him out of the game, literally knocked him out. And their offense has finally got into a rhythm. They got A.J. Brown back, and Julio Jones is back, and, of course, Derrick Henry is the best running back in the league by far. And they've got that going, and finally they got their defense going, which is all along was always surprising why they were weak defensively in a lot of ways. They were awful last year because the head coach, Mike Vrabel, is a defensive guy.
Yeah.
So Tennessee is elevated. This is the same team that lost to the Jets.
Yes,
the Jets' only win was against Tennessee, and Tennessee since that time has gotten themselves. Now they look like one of the top, 10 teams in the league.
Yeah, I mean, look, after the last 2 weeks, you might have to put them in the AFC as like 2 or 3 in the
AFC. That's
correct.
The
AFC. So I mean. Because the other team that seems to have finally made a mark is the Bengals. I mean, that was an impressive win over the Ravens.
Got a great quarterback.
Yes. Look, they did the smart thing. They looked at who LSU had when they won a national title. They took the quarterback, and then last year they took one of the wide receivers. The other wide receiver is playing in Minnesota, and he's pretty good too.
And he stuck with their coach.
Yeah, they stuck with their coach.
1-15 season, they stuck with him.
Yep, and they stuck through. They stuck through Joe Burrow getting knocked out last year. They probably would have been better last year.
The Bengals are good. They're really good defensely. They're good.
Yeah, I mean, so I was
big win
impressed.
yesterday against Baltimore.
Yeah, so I was really impressed. They have good team speed everywhere. Jamar Chase is fantastic wide receiver. Burrow does a great. He's as good as we thought he would be.
Yes,
and that's a little bit scary. So that was an impressive win. So the Bengals and the Titans kind of jumped into the conversation when the week before, even though they had beaten the Bills, the Titans had. I think the week before people were kind of like, well, the Bills probably lost the game. They didn't give the Titans necessarily credit, and they weren't down with the Bengals yet. But I think after these 2 wins, those 2 teams have jumped into the conversation all of a sudden.
I agree.
All right, it's Brown Sports Bag brought to you by McDonald's of Glasgow. We'll be right back.
Presented by McDonald's of Glasgow, it's back to the studio with James and John, the Brown Sports Bag.
All right, we're back, John. We're going to talk a little bit about some cross country, and the regional volleyball begins tonight. Real quick, the Barren County girls finished 4th in their region in cross country on Saturday, qualified for state with that. Gracie Reed and Chesney McPherson finished 3rd and 4th, respectively.
Gracie's an 8th grader.
Yep.
Chesney's a sophomore.
Yep.
And they were right next to
1918 and 1921, I think, is what their times were.
Yeah, great. They're
very, very good runners.
Very good runners. And the team qualified, too.
Yep, the team qualified.
Give them credit. That's right.
Yeah, so I think it was the top 4 that got in, or maybe the scores after that got them in. I don't remember.
It's top 4. It's top 4.
Yeah, because there's not many regions.
Right.
Yeah, so you wind up with quite a few at state.
Right.
And the state meet will be this coming Saturday in Paris. That'd be Paris, Kentucky. They're not flying across the Atlantic.
Yeah.
Which is Bourbon County, which is northeast there of Lexington.
Been there. Yep.
I've never been there, and I'm not sure how my weekend is going to work out in terms of trying to get to the state meet right now. I got some other things going on, so we'll see. But we'll keep up with it. We'll get it posted whenever we get the results, no matter how we get there.
It's a big time event, the state cross country. Everybody tells me that's ever been there loves it.
Yeah,
I've been there one time, and it was something to watch, to be honest with you.
I've been there 2 or 3 times, maybe more than that. I've covered it a few times, and then my children ran in the state meet when it was at the Kentucky Horse Park.
Yeah.
So, I went up there for those events. It's a lot of fun. I mean, cross country is one of those sports that I like track in a way that I like, in the sense that you put yourself through so much that the competitors are all friends in a lot of ways.
Yeah, it's individualized, but there's a team element. But those kids work really hard, and congratulations to them and to Mia Cassidy, right?
Yep, Yep, she qualified. She's
in the 2A.
Yep, they ran the 2A on Friday.
Same course.
Yeah, we're at Hardin County Fairgrounds. It's a little different this year. Used to, it was kind of a loop, but now they bought some acreage across the drive.
I saw some of your film. They running through a field.
Yeah. That used to not be like that. I don't know if that's something they just started this year, but they wind through this field that they bought and expanded that course. So it's not a loop anymore. It's just a one-direction course, and they finish that is one of the toughest finishes I've seen at a cross-country meet because you run uphill to the finish line.
That's no fun.
No, that was brutal. I mean, a lot of people like to sprint that last 100 or last 50 if they can. That would be a rough sprint right there. So, yeah, Mia Cassidy made it in the 2A girls. Then on the boys' side, Barren County's Brody Miller made it. He qualified for state. Yep, freshman. And Glasgow's Quentin Gresham, who may be a junior. He also qualified for state in the 2A. So the 2A state meet will be this Friday at Bourbon County Park, I think is what it's called. And then, like I said, the 3A will be on Saturday. So, congratulations to all of them. It's
should have good weather. I mean, the cooler the better.
Yes,
for them.
Yeah, it was actually a little bit muggy.
It was
on Friday, even though it wasn't too hot. It was kind of muggy.
Right.
So it was better on Saturday morning.
Yeah.
And then the 4th Region Volleyball Tournament starts tonight. As a matter of fact, the Barren County girls play at 6 o'clock.
In Russellville.
Yeah, so we'll see if I make it there before.
Play Clinton County, I believe.
They do play Clinton, yes. Drew the 16th district winner.
That's a good draw, actually.
Yeah. Clinton's got a pretty good team now.
They do.
But, yeah, it's a winnable match for Barren.
It's better than drawing Bowling Green.
True. Yes, or, he couldn't have drawn Greenwood, but, it's a little bit scary that right now Bowling Green is the best volleyball team in Region 4 because they're in that district, 14th district. Because usually it's Greenwood and it's been South Warren. Yep. Bowling Green's cropped up here lately.
Sure have. Mm-hmm.
So, that begins tonight, like you said, at
Bowling
Russell
Green, Greenwood, Logan are the favorites.
Yeah.
I mean, Logan plays with the big boys every year.
Yeah.
I don't think they are at the level of Bowling Green and Greenwood, but they have been in the past. Mm-hmm. So, they believe they're up there.
Yeah. So that'll be good. Like I said, I'm going to get over there as quickly as I can when we get done here. And then the World Series gets swinging into action tomorrow night. It's the Braves and the Astros, John.
That's not the probably the one that the TV people wanted.
No, probably not.
Yeah, I'm sure the TV people would prefer the Red Sox and the Dodgers. Mm-hmm. But, it is what it is. Atlanta's first time they've been back since, I think, it's been 20-something years since they've been in the World Series.
Yeah, was it 96 the last time they went?
99, somewhere in there.
Maybe it's 99.
Yeah, it's been a long time since they've been in there, and I think the Dodgers too many injuries, and they just kind of, I didn't think they managed the pitching very well either. I think it's a combination of injuries and poor how they use their pitchers. I wasn't real crazy about, but Atlanta, Houston's been there. You're talking about consistent.
Yeah.
Neither team has dominant starting pitching. It's kind of weird, and starting pitching is not. I don't even know what you call starting pitching. I guess you go 5 innings now. It's great, but there's
he's that guy they gave the ball to first, and then they gave the ball to somebody else a couple of innings later.
Yeah,
it's kind of odd.
Yeah, it makes the game go forever. But
yeah,
a lot of people around here for Atlanta, and I'll be for Atlanta too. You got Freddie Freeman and. You got a former U of L player, Duvall, who's an outfielder that was an outfielder for Louisville. I'm for Atlanta. But, I think it's 50-50 to go either way.
Yeah.
Either way. I mean, be nice. Dusty Baker's longtime manager. He's in his 70s. He's won it as a player, never won it as a manager. Mm-hmm. But Houston still has a lot lot that don't like him over the cheating scandal.
Yeah, the whole banging on the trash can business.
Yeah, but there's no question they're good.
Yeah. It is interesting that they've managed, because it looked like they were real close to making it last year, in that shortened season. And we discussed this last year, how many people were going to be miserable seeing the Astros right back in the World Series.
They got lucky last year in terms of nobody went to the games.
Yes, it's true.
So now it's been a couple of years afterwards.
Yeah.
So I think they kind of COVID was actually a benefit to them.
Yeah, I mean it is kind of amazing that they have managed to weather that whole situation and be right back here. And it's still just odd for me to see them representing the American League. I mean, even though it's been a number of years now.
I grew up with them as a national league.
Yeah, so it's kind of, a couple of years ago was when they played the Giants, it was in the World Series. It was just an interesting.
I mean, Atlanta just seems like to me they got the right mojo this year.
Yeah.
Something about, they've got some of the hottest players in the league, and we'll see. Should be a good series.
Yeah.
Hopefully they can play games under 5 hours.
It's that might be the requirement to even manage to watch the game.
My goodness.
Anything else about the sports week or sports world you'd like people to know, or that came to your mind?
I know. I mean, it's that time of year where everything's playing. I mean, college basketball will be starting.
Yeah, right around the corner.
Yeah, I've got a game with Western and Purdue in women's basketball in 2 weeks.
Is that right?
Yeah, November 7th.
So you are doing that again this year?
I'm doing some TV.
Cool.
Yep.
Oh, so people can see your smiling face.
Hopefully they'll just hear me. I've got a face for radio.
I hear you. That's what I want here. But no, that's pretty cool because it's. I know a couple of years ago you didn't get to do it last year, right?
No,
because of the COVID
that's
stuff.
That's correct.
So a couple of years ago when you did it,
Brett Williams and I will be doing the TV, and Brett just does the radio by himself. So we'll see. But yeah, that starts in 2 weeks. So this is, you got college football, pro football, NBA basketball, baseball still going on. I mean, you got everything going on right now.
Yeah, I watched a little bit of the NBA games the other night.
Yeah, I'm not into that.
I like watching, I think I said this before, certain players. So, like, I watched part of that Grizzlies-Laker games last night just because I
John Morant.
Yeah, because he's just a lot of fun to watch.
He is.
And some of that kind of stuff. So, I guess I'll look forward to watching some players. I don't really have a team that I'm rooting for these days, although I kind of do like the Bucks just because I like Giannis.
I do too.
All right, well, this is Brown Sports Bag brought to you by McDonald's of Glasgow. We will be back next week.
Thanks for listening, and be sure and join James and John once again next Monday at 4 for the Brown Sports Bag, a local weekly sports machine presented by McDonald's of Glasgow. Coming soon to your FM dial, this is Fox Sports Radio, WCDS Glasgow, AM 1230.